Hello, everybody. I'm Krasi, and I would like to discuss the entrance of Mars into Gemini, which is happening mid March. So Mars is entering Gemini, and he will be staying there until 12th of May. You remember that he's still in Taurus, and this is his very long transit in Taurus. Almost 8 months. Mars will be in Taurus until mid March. So I made, I think, 2 videos explaining in detail, I think, about the presence of Mars in Taurus, and actually. I think that this energy of Mars in Taurus is not so malefic even. This looks like controlled energy of Mars in Taurus in a way that Taurus, where he's considered classically to be fallen, actually is a sign where he's being the second house of the zodiac, where actually controlled, I say, because this energy of Mars is not that aggressive, it's not that extremely ambitious and violent in Taurus, and you see this in the world. Because we do not have the classical development of even of the war-like situation in Ukraine. So what will happen once he enters Gemini? First of all, what is his placement in Gemini? Mars in the ancient world was very, very malefic. People would really fear his energies a lot. They would call him the black planet, even the red planet in some text. He would be his Nergal, the god of the netherworld, who at one point is married to Ereshkigal, the goddess which is ruling the netherworld, the beautiful representation of Venus in the netherworld. So Mars is Nergal. He's ruling what? He's responsible for the greatest of disasters, plague, diseases, wars, violence, ambition, aggression. And you know what Mars classically in his negative forms is? In the good forms, in the higher vibration, Mars actually is a very, very decent, even very just, so to say, energy of the warrior, the soldier, who actually is fighting in a decent and moral way for justice. Even the good soldier is very disciplined. So you will see people with very well placed Mars to be also very disciplined, to be very strategic, structured, not overly ambitious to a harmful degree, but moral and decent, because this is the perfect image of a warrior. But in the ancient world, people would fear him more than they would fear Saturn, Ninurta. So, saying this as the most descriptive image of Mars, what is he doing when he enters Gemini? He will enter Gemini to stay there until 12th of May. So it's also not a very short, transit. So in Gemini, he does not have specific dignities. He's ruling there nothing, because he's not fallen, but he's also not ruling anything, and he is considered called to be peregrine planet, which doesn't have is not fallen, is not detriment, but also does not have specific dignities. Gemini is the sign which is naturally ruling the third house of the zodiac, ruled by Mercury, and during his and Mars is all what I described, but also Mars is showing our drive. Oftentimes in the horoscopes, wherever Mars is, you can recognize, of course, you have many details around that, but you recognize what the people are driven to. So naturally, Mars is entering the third house of the zodiac, where he's peregrine. Of course, How he will influence your horoscope will depend on many factors, on how Mars is placed in your own horoscope, on the fact whether you're born in the day or at night, because he's a night planet and he has specific place in a night or in a day horoscopes. So there will be many factors which will give additional details, but in general for the world, he is entering the third house of the zodiac, the house of communication, brothers and sisters. This is in the mundane, in the mundane astrology, we have a little bit different reading, of the planets and the zodiac. So the entrance of Mars in this Mercurian intellectual, knowledge-based place is about influencing what the third house in astrology means. The third house ruled by Gemini, ruled by Mercury, Hermes. So communication, commerce, deals, negotiations in the mundane world level, astrology, railways, cars, traffic by land, by sea, by air, highways, traffic lights, trains, radio, communication, telephone, news, specific information, even reclams, newspapers, bookstores, intellectuals, journalists, people who negotiate, libraries, schools, colleges, studies of all kinds, schools, teachers, neighboring countries, immigration, armed forces, army leaders, agreements, everything that is about negotiations I mentioned, merchants, and accidents. How much Mars will influence all this long list which I just listed in the world? He will influence, not in a very desperate degree, because when he will be entering Gemini, there won't be affliction of other malefic planet. So there won't be such hard aspect, but he will be influencing the communication, the traffic, even what I just said, the armed forces. It will, of course, influence the war on these levels. Like, you will see immediately change in the war theater, they call it. You will see how these particular areas in the war scenarios will be more influenced by others. It's like the main scenario will move. Also, you will notice how the thing is he will influence, but how destructive he is, well, not much, because he's not very, very powerful in Gemini. But the thing is that on mundane level, the planets do not really give the best of their qualities and the highest vibration of their energies, simply because on mundane level it works that way, that for example, we cannot expect from a planet to give, like Mars, malefic planet, to give only the good. It will give certainly some challenges, which will be these changes in the mechanics of the war, like situation you will see movement from the way it will be until mid-March, which was quite controlled. There were no really I said it from day one, once Mars entered Taurus, that it will be, well, in a degree, manipulated, controlled war-like situation, but also it did not get to the extremes which many people predicted. Now, it will influence the communication, but I see this more like, you can have technical disturbances, yes, on one level. On another level, you will have desire of people to speak, to voice their concerns, to say the truth. Sometimes, the heart of people cannot live in a lie. So you will see people will be exposed a lot, like government figures, they will be a lot to expose, truth to come out, simply because people cannot stand to live in a lie. And Mars will be this drive to communicate, to say it, to expose. It well, yes, in it can create disturbances in the traffics, highways. Some, of course, on the 3rd of May, it was only 2 weeks, 10 days, but Venus enters Gemini, and which will soften the energies of Mars even more. But before that, and I'm looking once again at whether there will be any affliction. Actually not, even there will be trine by Saturn. So there will be very practical, strategic approach, like people will be really persistent in speaking, voicing the truth, in saying that, in speaking out their concerns. Could be that there will be even protests that people will like to necessarily, it will not be held to voice their concerns. And in the meantime, there will be also harmonious aspect by Jupiter by sextile. This would say that Jupiter, who will be in Aries, martial sign, it will be so that many philosophies, people will be driven to know, and philosophical, spiritual, religious facts also will come out, knowledge. This will be also about bravery, to be brave, about courage. People will be very courageous. But because of the good aspect of Jupiter, I don't see Mars causing extremes in anything. You will see that. But also, how will be this influencing also in general? Very intellectual. People will be driven to knowledge, to know. People who are ruled by Mercury, who have Gemini ascendant, will be very much influenced. They will be very driven. People who have Gemini on mid-heaven will be very driven to also to Mercurian activities, to know, to knowledge, to new projects, to new communication means, to travel. This will be very much influenced. Of course, we have reasons to be careful, especially until 3rd of May, from 16th of March to 3rd of May. When Mars is in general, especially if he's not very placed in your horoscopes, be a little bit careful how you communicate, how you negotiate, how you travel. Keep in mind that he's capable of creating disturbances, but because of this sextile of Jupiter, because of the trine of Saturn, he will not do extremes. You will see that. But of course, it is worth it to to be careful, because his peregrine does not have specific dignities. When Mars is well placed, he gives the best of his energies, like I told you what he would be doing in his ideal representation. He is, let's say, not ideal in Gemini, but with this placement, it will be mediocre, really. Let's look at him this way. We need to be a little bit more concerned once he enters Cancer, but this is later. He will be in Cancer from 12th of May until 30 June. Then we need to be a little bit more concerned, because then he indeed is in a position which is classically, detriment. Then he doesn't have dignities, but it's just the opposite. So I hope this gave you information on the presence of Mars during this particular timing. I wish you all the best, and if you want to know how he will influence your horoscope, you can take a look at my specific readings for March, especially for Mars. So all the best to you. Bye bye.